Yo, what's good? It's your boy Derek from DGen DGAX. In this video, you're gonna learn how to take your Instagram inbox, aka your DMs, into a money-making machine. Let's be real. Keeping tabs on every single person you talk to in the Instagram DMs is almost impossible. There's an actual free tool that you probably didn't know about that I personally use to turn my inbox into a money-making machine. And I'm gonna show you how to do that. All right, so the first thing you're going to get out of this is limiting distractions and saving time. And how are you gonna do this? You're gonna do it because you're gonna use Meta Business Suite. You can access it on the desktop, my personal preference, or on the actual application itself. If you're not sure how to set it up, click the link in the description and I'll show you how to do that. On average, most people spend 2 hours a day on Instagram, 60 hours a month, maybe more. I don't know how addicted you guys are, but I got that time back to put into myself and my business, all right? Because when you're accessing it via the Meta Suite, it's only your inbox, nothing else. No hot girls, no traveling, no memes, no comedy, no distractions, just meaningful conversations. You get in, you get out, check it 3 times a day. So that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna take a look at it right now and show you around.
All right, and here is your business Meta Suite. As you can see, it's on facebook.com, and there's also an application. I like to do it on my desktop. I find it's easier to do, but if I'm on the run, I'll also use the app. In each one of these parts, I'll be going over the different sections on how to use these tools up here, how to use labels, how to use the drop-down filters, how to update the about section and keep notes. But as I said, you're going to limit a lot of distractions here because there's no pictures, there's no content, and there's 0 distractions. So connect and engage and use this tool to keep these conversations going. And, I'll jump into all these other points next.
This feature is a game changer. It's called labels. When you're speaking to someone, you could add a label to their contact record. So you could search through labels to sort your contacts. If that doesn't make sense, let me explain. When I get a client, I connect with them on Instagram and I add a label client to their contact record. I then search client and then it shows me every single person who has a label called client. Or let's say I'm speaking to a graphic designer or a web developer. I'll apply the tag web designer or graphic designer. Then it sorts all my DMs by those labels. So depending on your business and niche, use labels to help organize your messages. Let's jump in and check it out.
All right, let's jump into the labels. And those are located right here. These are very, very crucial to keeping your, we're going to call this a CRM, right? I consider it a customer relationship management tool, because we get to keep notes and really keep our contacts organized. So let's say I'm speaking to my business page, DGen DGAX, right? I'm going to add a label as entrepreneur. And I'm also coming up with a podcast, and I think you'd be a great podcast host, right? So I'm also going to type in podcast, right? And inside here, let's say you're speaking to someone and they're a client of yours, right? I'm going to go add the tag client, okay? Then you could go in here and literally organize all your labels, clean them up, delete them, and stay very, very organized. Like I need to go in here and honestly clean up a bunch of this crap. And this is going to allow you then to use these labels to search for certain people, right? Because let's say I'm talking to very interesting people and I put a tag label and I want to reach out to them later for a podcast, right? I was talking to this guy before. Sick rollerblader, has a cool brand. And I was like, wow, I really want to keep in touch with him. Boom, Bay with Music, podcast, right? I want him to be in a podcast host eventually. So I use these labels to keep my contacts organized. Then in this tab over here is how I could actually search my labels and locate the people. Then on the right side, like I showed you before, this is where you're able to manage all your labels. Powerful tool, make sure you're using it.
This feature is huge and it's called filters. This really allows you to level up your game in your inbox, especially using labels. It allows you to mark things as important, set follow-ups, and much more. Let's take a dive and check it out.
All right, let's jump into the filters, right? These are awesome. I use these all the time. And it really depends on the business and what you're selling and how you want to go about this. But obviously, we have the spam. If you're talking to someone who's just not worth it or just a spammy account, move them to spam. You could delete conversations from here. You could mark conversations as a follow-up. You could mark them as important. You could mark them as done. And you could also mark them as unread. We'll get into that a little later. But, in this case, right? Let's say I'm speaking to someone who I want on my podcast, right? I'm going to make sure I'm keeping this as a follow-up because I want to follow up with them until I get a yes or a no. Or let's say I'm prospecting someone and they're a potential person to be on the podcast, right? I'm going to maybe mark it as important. Or maybe in this case, someone says yes, but they didn't do a date. So then I mark it as a follow-up. And let's say there's people that I'm talking to who I want to be on the podcast. I mark them as important, right? Because they've responded back to me. We're having conversations, but they haven't confirmed. And, now this person confirmed, but we haven't booked a date yet. So now what you could do is go over here and search by people who are important. Search by people who have follow-ups. You could do that on top of the labels, right? So you could do that and then search like podcast, right? So I could do podcast and I could also say, cool, this person's marked as follow-up. This person's marked as important, and I kind of know where they stand based on what I apply the terms to these different filters. So like I said, over here, you have all your filters and you can sort all your messages through this. If you start combining labels and filters, it's a powerhouse. And like I said, every business is different and you really got to apply like what that means to you. And that'll be it for the filters.
One of my favorite features, the unread/unanswered tool. I know me, I read conversations and I forget to respond to them. Never happening again. Every time I read a convo, I'm not ready to answer. I mark it as unread and I'll get back to it when I'm ready. When it comes down to unanswered, I could sort every conversation that's never been answered and also get back to it. Let's go check it out.
One of my favorite tools is this right here. Marking things as read and marking things as unread, the kicker here. Everything that's in tan right here or not bolded means you've read it. So literally, if you're not ready to answer something, mark it as unread and look, boom. And the greatest thing is what you could do is you could literally sort by all unread messages. So every DM that you have not answered, which I need to answer these DMs, you could go in and sort all your messages by this. And this is great where it's just like, hey, I'm not ready to answer this, or hey, I need to get back to it, or hey, you gave me your email and I need to, update my spreadsheet. Don't be like me and wait a month and a half to do that. But whenever you're having a conversation, it's so easy for that to get lost. You could just go in there and mark it as read, mark it as unread, and it'll go right to the top of your inbox. It's a very, very powerful tool. You could also sort by unanswered. For some reason, I find Facebook's business meta suite to take a while to load, and a lot of the times it doesn't work. Maybe because there's a lot of messages in my inbox. I've had this account for 6 years, but that'll show every DM that's gone unanswered. So that's unread and unanswered. You could find it here, and like I said, you could also apply it over here as well. And a very powerful tool.
Do not forget about the notes in the about section. If someone has their phone number and email in their bio, you fill that information in. That is your mini CRM. When you're having a conversation with somebody and they tell you that, oh, hey, I just launched a YouTube video, or hey, I'm getting married next year, take note of that. So when you have a conversation, you bring these important factors up so you're going to be the best conversationalist. Let's jump into the inbox and show you how to do it.
And now we're going to jump in the about section and the notes section. If a client, or not a client, but if anyone you're talking to has any information in their profile, I personally like to update it in here. It really depends what type of business you're running and how you want to apply this. But if they have their phone number and email, I personally like to get this information, like I said, and also take it a step further in the conversation. Sending them an email, sending them a text. If it's out there on the public, they want to be contacted. Have a conversation, be like, hey, bro, I was speaking to you before. I had a great conversation, by the way. Got your number from your page. Just wanted to keep in touch. No one else is doing it. You'll stay ahead of the curve and really be present in that new connection and network that you're building. When it comes to notes, this is where you'll leave notes. So if you're having a conversation with someone and they say like, oh, hey, I'm having a wedding in September, right? You can be like, Sept 2023 wedding, grew up in NYC, mutual friends are Tony and Tim, right? By saving these notes in here, when you're having these conversations, you got to think like Instagram is going to be around for a long, long time. And all these connections and networks that you're building, when you talk to these people and keeping notes about it and like bringing these conversations up, you're going to be on top of your game as a conversationalist and a networker. But this is where you'll use the about section, and this is where you'll add your notes. Definitely use them. It's very, very powerful. And yeah, that's a wrap up for this.
All right, folks, you know the drill. I'm back on the YouTube grind. It's been like 5 years. If you could like, subscribe, leave me a comment, do whatever. It really, really means the world. Feel free to shoot me a DM on Instagram, connect with me on all my socials. And I have a newsletter. It's called DGAX Digest. Definitely subscribe to that. Just need your email. Every week I send a bunch of valuable content, more about like, hey, what's going on in the business marketing world, what I'm listening to podcast wise, what I'm reading, what cool YouTube videos I'm watching, what trending audios are out there. And, it's more like a recap of my life business wise in a week of like what I'm personally doing and what I think is cool. So I'm pretty sure you'll get some awesome value from that. And, appreciate the support. Thanks for watching, and catch you later.